Hey everybody. So the portfolio review is over and I hope it went well. If you have a minute, post something in discussions about how it went. Or you can just email me. It'd be nice to know how it went. So today's video is just a short one about some things that I wish people had told me when I was about to graduate. The only folders left in your Dropbox are now just week 14. So please post your cover letter, resume, business card, portfolio PDF, and a link to your website in week 14 in your Dropbox folder. And that will be the final assignment for the semester. If you need to be in touch with me for whatever reason, you can always just email me. During the summer, I tend to check my school email less frequently. You can use my personal email, which is on the first class flyer. If you need a reference for a job or you want some advice about something, or I don't know, you want to say hello, I keep in touch with students from years ago, and you're perfectly welcome to do that. This stuff I'm going to tell you now, there's a good chance that you know a bunch of it already, but I'm just going to run it by you in case you don't. Now, if you have questions about this, definitely get in touch. But it's kind of basic life stuff. So the first thing I just want to mention is your credit score. If you're not familiar with this is how you are rated as someone who has the ability to pay their debts. So it's your credit worthiness. This is how banks will judge if you're worthy of getting an upgrade on your credit card, for instance. So if you pay off your bills, you pay off your credit card score gets higher, and it makes it possible for you to take out loans. Now, I use credit cards all the time, and I pay them off at the end of the month, or I just use a debit card, which does it automatically. But it's still, that builds up your credit card rating. And when you're trying to get a mortgage, or you're trying to rent an apartment, you're trying to get a car loan, where your credit rating is makes a difference to if you can get the loan at all or if you're going to get a good deal. So something to keep an eye on. So when you have bills due, pay them. If you're going to have a credit card, pay it off by the end of the month. Avoid getting into any kind of credit card debt. If you have a big debt now is the time to start paying it off. End of school, so you're not going to have all the school expenses going out all the time. Something to keep an eye on and to be responsible about now that you're all grown up. So the next thing is an emergency fund. An emergency fund is a chunk of money that you put aside for an emergency. Now, people say, okay, I have a savings account, I put stuff in there, and if it's an emergency, I'll just take it out. It's good to have a separate fund that you just never touch. And the reason for that is that we don't know what's going to happen. If you get a nice job 6 months from now, a new boss may come along and just fire you because he wants to hire his girlfriend or something. There might be another pandemic. All of a sudden you can't get any work, so you have an emergency fund to pull on. You might get a beautiful car and you're driving to work every day, and then all of a sudden your car breaks down and you've got to pay $800 for a new carburetor. I don't know. You might have an emergency. So that's what your emergency fund is for. If you're working freelance, you have a bunch of money saved up so that if all of a sudden the freelance work starts drying up, you can have like 3 to 6 months worth of bills in your emergency fund to tide you over until work picks up again. Now, if you're in a situation where you're living at home, probably paying some kind of rent, it's probably not as expensive as if you were, renting on the commercial market. This is the time to start saving. And, just cut down on something, get an extra job on the side, try and get some freelance, but start building up that fund so you have that buffer against things going wrong. So we talked a lot about how you're going to get a job, how you're going to find a job, how you're going to interview, how you're going to, eventually end up doing work for somebody. So it's important at work to develop relationships. It doesn't mean you have to be everybody's friend. It does mean you have to have a good, solid understanding of people. So you can rely on them, they can rely on you, and also just makes life a lot more pleasant. My nephew recently got a job, and he says there's some drama going on where somebody was going out with somebody's boyfriend, and they immediately started to try and bring him into the conversation. And he was politely but firmly, I'm going to get on with my work, but you guys have a good cup of coffee. So you want to try and avoid getting into those situations where all of a sudden you're supposed to take sides in something that's nothing to do with you. So you want a reliable, friendly relationship with these people. They don't have to be your best friends. They don't need to know the story of your life. You don't need to know theirs, unless you do become friends. And then that's fine. But it's a job to relate to the people that you work with. And you want to be a nice person. And you want to be reliable. Reliable is, I've mentioned it before, but say what you're going to do and then do it. And you don't say, oh, I forgot to do that. It's a good idea to take notes of everything you're supposed to be doing, like you have in this class, and you can refer back. It says, oh, I got this and this and this by 3 o'clock, and I've done it, and here it is. And if you can't do it, then you have a sensible answer for why you can't do it. Reliability is often more important than talent. It's just true. Somebody you can rely on, even if they don't do such a good job, but that's better than somebody who's really good at the job and doesn't do it. So be the person that does the job. At work, if you want to get ahead, which I'm assuming you all do, be the person that does a little bit extra. If the boss wants you to double check all the work again, triple check the work, be that person. So, yeah, I'll do that. Stay a bit later tonight to go over tomorrow's presentation. Yeah, I'll do that. Just go a little bit overboard so that they know that you care enough about your jobs, your work, that you will go the extra mile to do stuff. Now, my friend Fiona, she came to speak at City Tech once, but it was a while back. She worked on a magazine I was working on in England. And she was kind of small and scruffy, and she just graduated from college, and she came to work at this magazine that I was at. And she was there every morning earlier than everybody else. She spent all of her extra money on other magazines. She'd say, look at this cool magazine I got. And she'd flip through and she'd check out the designs. And she would stay later than everybody else. But she loved magazines. And she made sure that everybody knew that she did. And it was genuine. It was authentic. So time came. This is a huge magazine. It was millions of copies every week. Time came when they were going for a redesign. And they hadn't redesigned the magazine in like 25 years. So guy comes into the room, and he's thinking to himself, so who's going to be the designer that's going to be helping me out with the redesign? And he looks around the room, and he gets to Fiona and says she is keener on this job than anyone else in the room. And she got this really interesting plum job. And she's gone on to be this incredible creative director in all kinds of magazines, Vogue, Germany, and then she was working in Russia a bunch of times, and then she's working in the UK, and then she had this really cool job where she went around the world checking on other Condé Nast magazines in like 20 different countries. It's just unbelievable. You couldn't invent a job like that. So, but she showed her passion for this stuff, and I don't use the word passion very often, but she's genuinely passionate about this. But she let everybody know that. She let everyone know, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm good at. She didn't say, please hire me. They hired her because she was great. So be that person. Okay, so AI. So AI, it changes all the time. And as I said before, there's ads for jobs that are asking for people that are familiar with AI, and it's generally Adobe Firefly at this point, but it's going to be other ones as well. So I mean, there's so many new ones coming along. Some are getting way better than others. Chat GPT has just exploded. I am certainly not an expert in this. Honestly, nobody is at this point. But you need to at least understand the ways it can be used, the ways that you can fiddle about with it. What kind of stuff can you make it do? How do you use prompts? Can you use an existing thing that you can then prompt the AI to move around and explore in a different way? Just try stuff out. Try stuff out. So it means that if you go into a job interview, you're not going to know how they use it, but you do have an understanding of how AI itself is working and how it's changing. And the fact is, they are kind of in your boat too. They're figuring it out as they go. You may bring new stuff to them, but you can only do that if you play around with AI a bit. So, like I said, we had that one exercise this semester, and I know you've been having it in other classes as well. I haven't emphasized it that much this semester because I don't think just putting experiments in AI in your portfolio really brings you forward, but definitely mention it in your interviews, in your resume, and be a little bit, clear about how you experience AI and how you might use it in a design job so that you can talk to them. It may be totally wrong, but it means that you're thinking about it and learning about it, and that's very important. So, pensions. If your employer has a pension scheme, sign up to it. So, what happens is they will give you a paycheck and they'll take a percentage of your paycheck out every month and put it in a pension scheme. If it's an employer pension scheme, I'm making up these numbers, but they'll say they take 5% of your check, which it won't be, but it'll be 5% of your check. They might put in 1% on top of that. So you're saving money, and they're helping you save money by putting more money into your pension. This is free money that will help your pension grow way, 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 way faster. If you don't have a pension scheme at your job, maybe you'll have a pension scheme of your own. Possibly you'll have both, the job one and your own one. That's usually like an IRA or something. I'm not an expert on these things. Check it out, look it up. But if you start saving for your pension when you're young and in your 20s, you'll have an extremely well-funded retirement. I went into seriously saving for my pension way too late, sort of my late 30s like that, because I just never thought it was ever going to be an issue. I don't know why. So I'm fine. I have a pension. If I'd started earlier, it would have been about 3 times bigger. So mine was about, $350,000? If I'd started at your age, it would have been like $1.5 million, something like that. That's the big difference. And if you make it automatic, it comes out of your paycheck, you don't even notice it. It's just happening there in the background. You may not have quite as much money, but down the road, your older self will thank your younger self. Good. So, asking for a raise. Now, you've got a job. It's a junior designer job. It doesn't pay very well. You've been doing this for, say, 6 months to a year, something like that. You're pretty good at your job now. You've learned their systems. You know everybody there. It's not like you don't have more to learn, but you've established the fact that you can handle this stuff and you're ready to take on more. So that's what you say. If you want a raise, you make a case for yourself. You're being a lawyer, saying, I've been here for 8 months or something. I've learned the so-and-so system. I understand, our so-and-so campaigns. I've done a bunch of research on a bunch of projects. Under these circumstances, I think I'm due for a raise. And then see what they say. Now, before you go into there, you say, okay, I'm going to ask for a raise. They're probably not going to give it to me. So you have that in your head, but there's a chance that they will. So you want to take the emotion out of the situation. You're not going to burst into tears if you don't get a raise, and you're going to be pleasantly pleased if they give you a raise. If they do give you a raise, you want to say, thank you very much. But you're doing several things here. You're making them notice you. You are letting them know that you're not quite making enough money. You're also letting them know that if they're not going to give you a raise, there's a chance that somebody else might give you a raise. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to race out and get another job, and you certainly don't say that. But now they know you want more money. And they might say, no, I'm sorry, our budgets are too tight and we can't do this and that and the other. Then they go away for the weekend and they say, oh, Jesus, Louisa isn't that happy with our crappy money that we're giving her. She's probably going to want to look for another job. So then you come back on Monday morning and say, come on here. Maybe we will give you the raise. Because thinking about it over the weekend, they wouldn't say this. They really don't want to have to go and find somebody again. Because finding new employees, especially good ones, because you've already laid out how good an employee you are. If they're good ones, you have to start all over again. You have to bring somebody else in and train them up and go through the whole song and dance. So they're really going to want you to stick around. Or they might say something like, okay, we look at raises in September, and I'll keep all this in mind and keep up the good work. Which is, disappointing, but, at least you're on the radar. And if September comes along and they don't give you a raise, then you start looking for a new job. Now, thing is, you can find a really nice office full of nice people doing nice things, and you can get crappy money. It's a good thing to do, and it's a good experience, but at some point you want to say, much as I love this place, I need to get ahead. New York is an expensive place to live. And I want to go up the ladder. I want to learn new things, and God knows I need more money to survive in this place. Besides, I have a pension to pay for. So you got to think strategically about your career and how it's rolling out. And at some point, making moves from new to new companies often is the way to up the money that you make. Because they get used to you just doing the work and not being paid very much. And that's not a great place to be. And they can be the nicest people in the world. But if they're going broke, they will fire you. They'll let you go because, the company comes first. Nice as they are, they're in business. And nice as you are, you're also in business. Anyway, things to think about. We've talked about networking already. If you haven't watched that video, watch that video. But it's a good idea to join a professional organization. And there's a list of them on Brightspace. And you can still get a student rate right now while you're still a student, unless you're, waiting for the fall or something. But it's a very good idea to join one, which is the most relevant to what you're interested in. And do it so that you can network, you can meet new people, you can hear about new jobs, and also you just get away from the computer. So much of our work is, just staring at a screen all the time. But also, we're working from home more and more. And while some people love this and some people hate it, that's a reality. It's a good thing for all of us, whether we love it or hate it, is to just get out of the house and hang out with people that aren't just putting their nose into their phone the whole time, that you can actually see and talk to actual people. This is also the way to meet girlfriends and boyfriends. Socialize, make new friends, get out in the world, experience New York, learn about new things in the design industry. It's part of getting a job, but it's also just, being a person, expanding your life a bit after school, because with school, you're surrounded by people who are doing the same thing that you are. We're all getting our degree here. You come out of school, and all of a sudden you're out in the real world, and you're going, 9 to 5, and it's harder to make friends. So these organizations make it easier to make friends, and you can join one with a friend, so that if you're going to one of their events, you have someone to hang out with and someone to meet new people with. It's a good idea. I highly recommend it. Okay, so I've made a note here, cooking. If you don't know how to cook yet, learn to cook. Food will be cheaper, healthier, and more delicious. And it's also a way to impress your new partner. We get used to, HelloFresh and, people dropping meals on our front door. If you cook from scratch, you do save money. You learn a new skill, and it's better for you. It's less processed food. It's more fresh nutrition. It's gone through fewer factory lines, and it's also very fun. And it also makes your house smell amazing. I just recommend it. Okay, emotional health. Be aware of how things can overwhelm you sometimes. It doesn't mean you have to be a victim all the time, but the fact is, if you have too much stuff going on and you can't handle it, then get someone to help you. You can go to a therapist, you can talk to a friend, you can talk to a friend and a therapist, but it's part of it is just recognizing where you are. Okay, am I just having a bad day, or have I had just 3 weeks of bad days in a row and I can't get out of this? So think about that. Just think about yourself from time to time. It's like, where am I? How am I doing? Is this good? Is this bad? Sometimes just going out and playing some basketball will cut through the crap and make you feel better. Sometimes you need a bit more, but that's good. It's a very strong thing to do, is to recognize that I need some company. I need a serious grown-up to talk to. Serious grown-up, I mean some kind of therapist, or maybe, I don't know, your father or something. But find the people that are going to help you, because that's a strong decision to make. It's like, this is what's going to make me better. I'm going to go do it. So here you are, graduating from school. You're young and energetic. You're starting to make a bit of money. New York is an amazing place. There are plays and movies and books and sports, and you can get out of the city and go pick apples north of the city. You can get together and have games nights with your pals. You can go to the beach. Experience life a bit. Again, so you're not just caught up in a computer screen or a phone screen the whole time. And New York is such a cool place to be. Take advantage of that. And then finally, vote. So I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. You can probably figure out how I voted last time. But we live in a democracy. Democracy means that we, as ordinary people, we get to decide who our leaders are. We have plenty of flaws in our democracy, but it's a lot more flawed to not have a democracy. So it's a privilege to be able to choose our leaders. So if you do not vote, that means whatever comes down the line is kind of your fault, because you didn't participate in this situation. Now, maybe that you have two candidates who are terrible. There's not a lot of great candidates out there. They can be serious assholes. But there's always going to be one that's just a little bit worse than the other one. So vote for the one that's less of an asshole. Now, every once in a while, some amazing person comes along. Definitely vote for them. But get out of the house, go down to the voting booth and vote. People in other countries have died in order to be able to vote. So start voting. Start participating. Start being aware of America's place in the world and how America is treating itself, and be somebody that makes a difference. Anyway, it's been a lovely semester. Don't forget, you can always be in touch. I'll look out for all your PDFs and links and so forth. And have a great summer.